Hey everybody, Sneaky Narcotic, back at it again with another YouTube video. And today we're going to go over the top 10 Throne of Eldraine cards for Commander. Before we get into today's video, guys, let me please ask y'all to like, share, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and I would greatly appreciate it. So without further ado, let us get into the top 10 in no particular order, starting with the Magic Mirror. So the Magic Mirror is a 6 generic 3 blue mana legendary artifact mythic rare. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each instant sorcery card in your graveyard. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror, then draw a card for each knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror. So the primary reason I think I'll see this card in Commander a lot is that it's not hard to discount this spell. A lot of times in blue, especially, you're playing instants and sorceries. The other thing is that no maximum hand size is very relevant, especially, again, in blue, because a lot of times you'll have a good amount of draw spells and want to keep everything that you're drawing. So, the first thing I was going to compare this to is Aeon Chronicler, that lets you basically draw a card when you have it suspended every single turn. The other thing I was going to compare it to is Spellbook, because of the no maximum hand size. Both of these cards have seen really big play in Commander. Another thing I was going to compare it to is As Foretold. As Foretold is something that allows you to start actually playing spells for free based off of how many turns As Foretold is on the board. This doesn't let you play spells for free, but it does let you draw more and more cards per turn, effectively becoming more potent, I would say, turn after turn. Let's see, the whole concept behind this deck that I'm going to make with the Magic Mirror, and if you ever hear me talk about it, it is my mono blue deck. It's based around the idea of drawing cards until you can't draw any more cards. And the Magic Mirror is going to help you do that. Jace, Water of Mysteries is a great way to win the game off of that. There's also another card called Laboratory Maniac that I don't have depicted here that also helps you with that. So that's the reason I think this card is going to really see play, is that there's a game plan around it, and there's cards in Commander already that have seen play. They're very similar to this card. So let's continue on with number 2, Gadwick The Wizened. So I just mentioned my mono blue deck. This actually would be the new commander for the mono blue deck. The old commander was actually Arcanist the Omnipotent, and it was only because he drew me cards. Well, Gadwick The Wizened, X cost 3 blue, legendary creature, human, wizard, rare. When Gadwick The Wizened enters the battlefield, draw X cards. He draws you cards. Whenever you cast a blue spell, tap target non-land permanent an opponent controls. He defends you. That's really the good part about Gadwick. He's a 3/3, which, hey, you can't ask for a good body on a very good creature. So my first thought when I thought of Gadwick The Wizened, and this is as well as standard, but let's think in terms of Commander. Verity Circle. Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. Since Gadwick The Wizened is tapping cards, it's going to allow you to draw a card. Basically, it's going to allow you, for every blue spell you cast, tap a card, draw a card, Now, granted, there is a hiccup here. It does say that you can tap target non-land permanent. It doesn't necessarily have to be a creature, but Verity Circle says it has to be a creature. So there is kind of a hiccup there, but it's not as relevant. I do want to mention also in this interaction that casting Verity Circle will not allow you to draw a card, but it will allow you to tap a non-land permanent. So even Verity Circle itself being casted will tap a permanent, just not draw you the card. And then you can start playing, Ops and Brainstorms and everything, start tapping creatures down and drawing cards. And then drawing cards. So the other interaction I wanted to mention with this is that Omniscience is out there. Omniscience is a very moderately played card in Commander. It's my favorite card ever in existence, but in Commander, it is moderately played. And so, the cool thing about Omniscience is that it says you may cast non-land cards from your hand without paying the mana cost. Because if you look over here on Gadwick the Wizened, it does say you have to cast a blue spell to tap target non-land permanents an opponent controls. So I do appreciate that Omniscience still has the cast trigger, so that way we can use it with Gadwick the Wizened. I really think that's worth it, because basically at instant speed, even if you play a sorcery at instant speed, or let's even put it like this, it says cast a blue spell. Let's say that you play a creature at instant speed because you have, I don't know, Leyline of Anticipation out or something. That means that you get to play a card for free, tap a creature for free, and basically you're advancing your board state tremendously. I can see this card being substantially broken, honestly. Another thing I was going to mention, with the whole X cost factor and being able to draw cards based off of casting him, or actually entering the battlefield with the X paid. As Gauntlet of Power enters the battlefield, choose a color. Creatures of the control of the chosen color get +1/+1. Whenever a basic land is tapped for mana of the chosen color, the controller adds 1 mana of that color to his or her mana pool. Sticking with Gadwick as the commander and not one of the 99, I think that going mono blue with this and adding Gauntlet of Power and vice versa, Caged Sun, which does something very similar, will allow you to literally draw a crap ton of cards, because it's only 1x. It's not that hard, 3 and then 1x. So if you are let's say for instance, to get Gauntlet of Power out, you need 5 mana, because it's 5 generic, right? Let's say you have 5 islands out. Well, Gadwick the Wizened only costs 3 and then the X, so altogether you'll draw 7 cards after playing Gauntlet of Power for Gadwick the Wizened. And I think that's a really, really well put together combo. I think that Jace, again, Wielder of Mysteries, will be something that this commander is going to want to do. And definitely, the Magic Mirror will see play in this deck as well, because I'm still trying to cast instants and sorceries. So, I hate to put, my number 1 theory on how I want to build my mono blue deck together on this PowerPoint, but I really wanted to share that with y'all. The other thing I was going to say is that there are cards out there that bring your creature, or make your creature playable again. And by that I mean this. Erratic Portal, for instance, is 4 generic mana, 1 generic mana, and tap it, return target creature to its owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. So in theory, what you can do is you can pay 1 generic mana, tap Erratic Portal, bring Gadwick the Wizened back to your hand, and then play him again using his X cost to draw you cards, refilling your hand. And again, this is all speculation based off of being able to also have Leyline of Anticipation out, because you don't want anybody to really be able to respond to your Gadwick, but also this will allow you to save your Gadwick from being targeted by spells and other things like that. I really think that this card is going to be a very interesting card to see played. I'm very excited for this card. I already want to pre-order it, and I just don't know how. The last thing to mention about Gadwick is that you don't even need to pay X. X can equal 0. You can cast Gadwick for 3 mana and then just start tapping down creatures. That's how powerful Gadwick is. I'm sorry. One last thing to mention. I feel like I mentioned this in my video on Standard Throne of Eldraine Top 10, which I'll link that below. Go check that out. Pretty cool video. But Gadwick the Wizened is in the same color as Spark Double. So imagine getting 2 Gadwick the Wizens out and just double tapping all. I mean, I like that they put the non-land permanent part in there, because could you imagine how you could just start tapping your opponent's lands for them. I mean, if it didn't have that non-land part on there, it would be so easy just to tap everything. I imagine a game with Gadwick in it is just going to be basically, okay guys, go ahead and tap your crap because I'm about to cast some spells, you know? And so I really think that this might bust Commander, and honestly, I hate to say it because I love the card so much, but would be my first pick for Banishment in Throne of Eldraine. Banning this card, and I hate to say that because this card is awesome. It's Merlin. If you care for the lore, it definitely looks like Merlin, feels like Merlin, acts like Merlin. So yeah, I would hate to say that, but this card can potentially be super broken. Anyways, sorry guys, let's get into the next card. The Cauldron of Eternity. 10 freaking mana plus 2 black. Legendary artifact, mythic rare. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. Whenever a creature you control dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library, and then you can pay 2 generic mana and a black, tap it, pay 2 life, return target creature card from your graveyard to your battlefield. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. So, this was almost not put on this list, but I feel like it's worth it. It's a very weird card. It feels like it kind of contradicts itself because it has whenever a creature you control dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. So that's the part that I feel like contradicts itself, because the second part is resurrect your creatures by paying some mana and some life. And of course the life doesn't really matter as much in Commander, because we have double what we have in Standard, and that's the reason why this card didn't make it in my Standard video. But here's my thoughts on it. So Avatar of Woe, it's kind of very similar to Avatar of Woe. It matters about how many creature cards are in your graveyard. So I'm also looking at, I'm just going to kind of bring it all out here. I'm kind of looking at cards that will self-mill yourself. I do not, well, obviously it can't be the Commander, but as part of the 99, I don't think you should play it in a mono black setting. I honestly believe it would go great in some Golgari undergrowth type of shenanigans, where you're milling yourself to try to get your graveyard filled up with creatures, and then you can get your Avatar of Woe discounted. You can put Balthar the Defiled on there and remove Balthar the Defiled from game. Each player returns all black and all red creature cards from his or her graveyard to play. Not that I really care about the red part in that, but maybe we'll go Jund, And Underrealm Lich really helps you with that, being able to draw, basically choose between 3 cards and then discard 2 cards for every draw. The other thing I was going to say is that this might potentially end up in a Muldrotha the Gravetide deck, as well as Underrealm Lich and Avatar of Woe, just because it's just like Muldrotha, it's all contingent about getting things into the graveyard. There's a card that I don't mention here, and I think I might mention it in my next slide, but I'm not sure. Glowspore Shaman is my first thought because it's so recent, it's in Standard still, of cards that just put cards in your graveyard. I forgot the other card that's in Standard that does something similar, but basically that's what I'm looking for in this deck, is just to mill yourself again, like my mono blue deck, mill yourself, draw cards, but making sure that you fill up your graveyard with black cards. And I think black will definitely be able to do that. That's what it's about. Ayara, First of Locthwain. 3 black mana. Legendary creature, elf, noble, rare. When Ayara, First of Locthwain, or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Tap it, sacrifice another black creature, draw a card. Morning shifts seamlessly to Celebration as she chooses her next suitor. It is a 2/3. So the reason I like Ayara, First of Locthwain is, first off, it gains you life and it loses each opponent 1 life. I wish what it would say was each opponent loses 1 life and you gain the amount of life lost this way, because that's honestly would be really cool if it said that. But it doesn't, so hey, gotta let live. What I also like about this card is it's a draw engine. Sacrifice another black creature, draw a card. That's pretty good, for a 3-mana commander. She's honestly, I've been meaning to do this for a long time. I don't know why, but I really wanted to build a mono black commander, and I think it's more that I just don't play black as often as I want to. Outside of like color combinations, so I really want to get into mono black, and she's actually going to be my commander for mono black because it ends up being a mono black token builder. So let's go over thoughts for mono black token building. Bitter Blossom, a very used spell in enchantment and in commander, to consistently get yourself a 1/1 black fairy blocker, basically. But you lose 1 life, and the thing about that is that since every single time a black creature enters the battlefield, it's a black fairy rogue, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Basically, you're just dealing 1 damage to each opponent per turn, which, hey, that might not round up to much, but you're also taking away the downside to Bitter Blossom. You're not losing that 1 life for creating a 1/1 black fairy, because basically you gain it right back. So that's one of the things I thought would be really interesting to do with Ayara. The other thing, and New Scrap Mob and Josu Vest kind of show this off, but just being able to literally make mobs, Josu Vest making 9 bodies, dealing 9 damage to each opponent, and gaining you 9 life. New Scrap Mob, let's see, I don't ever use this card, so I want to read it just more. New Scrap Mob enters the battlefield with 5 +1/+1 counters on it. When a player casts a spell, remove a +1/+1 counter from New Scrap Mob. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So basically, let's see, altogether could equal 6 life, and gain you 6 life. So that adds up over time, and honestly, having a Yara out just starts feeling like a battle of attrition is what it looks like. The last card I wanted to mention about this is, again, another token builder in black, just to show that black does have token builders. Abhorrent Overlord. Whenever Abhorrent Overlord enters the battlefield, put a number of 1/1 black harpy creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield equal to your devotion to black. Imagining that we only have Abhorrent Overlord and Yara First of Locthwain out, that's 5. Altogether, 6 different bodies coming out at the same time. So that's it adds up, guys. It really does. I can't think of anything in black that might double her effect, but I think I really like this card. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. I know I might not make the smartest choices on these cards, but I think I got really close and what my proceeding of the top 10 was. Let's keep going with Emery, your Lurker of the Loch. Oh, I love this card. 2 generic, 1 blue, legendary creature, merfolk wizard, rare. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. When Emery, Lurker of the Loch, enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. Tap it, choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. Basically, graveyard recursion for artifacts, which is something that's kind of broken because artifacts in itself and Commander are broken. It seems that, and this is just a little aside, so don't mind me too much here, but it seems like in Standard, we always get artifacts that don't really work with each other, but in Commander, Legacy, Modern, artifacts just overrule the common cards, you know what I mean? It's so much better to be colorless than it is to be colored, is what it looks like. So this card definitely helps with that. I like that it literally can discount itself to 1 blue mana. You can cast your commander, potentially, or your 99 but legendary creature for 1 freaking blue mana. That's crazy. First thing that came to mind is all these sacrifice artifacts. So basically, this is one of the first ones I thought of. Time Steve, being able to take an extra turn after this one for sacrificing, yes, 5 artifacts, but being able to recur that to take another turn for sacrificing 5 artifacts is just ridiculous. You know, I'm not sure if that's actually a card that's in Standard. Not Standard, obviously not in Standard, but I didn't know if it was from like Unstable or the other thing that I can't think of right now. But I know for a fact this card's in Commander, and that's Academy Ruin. Another card, another land that allows you to put target artifact card in your graveyard on top of your library. Basically, again, recurring artifacts. So I think between those two cards, Emery and Academy Ruins, you can definitely have an engine for recurring artifacts in your in your arsenal, making an artifact deck worth it. And here's that Glow Spore Shaman I was talking about. Basically, milling yourself 3 cards upon entering the battlefield and upon death. No, wait. Not upon death. That's the other card I can't think of right now. But anyways, yeah, just my whole thought is that you can also mill yourself until you get that one artifact that you're looking for, like Planar Bridge or something, and then use Emery to bring out Planar Bridge. And even if they were to destroy Planar Bridge, right? Even if they were just to destroy it, you can bring it right back out because Emery recurs things from the graveyard, or you can use Academy Ruins, put it on top of your library, and draw it. So it adds up. The other thing that I didn't even know this was a card, but this is just ridiculous and crazy. Door to Nothingness. So, for anybody that's never seen this card, which was me until about, an hour ago, Door to Nothingness is one of those target player loses the game cards. So pay basically double Warburg and tap it, sacrifice it, Door to Nothingness, target player loses the game. Imagine in a perfect world just being able to reoccur this 2 different times, and basically making all your opponents lose from basically a pacifist way by making them telling them they lose the game. Just straight up lose the game. Because Emry, Lurker, the Loch got your card back, Now, granted, in this particular instance, Emery would have to be a part of the 99, so it's a little harder and far-fetched, but it's not impossible, and I have a buddy of mine that all he ever does is play artifact decks, and it would be so funny just to get off the Emery plus Door to Nothingness combo, and just tell him, hey, you lost to your own love. Yes, I love that. I love that interaction. Next card, the Great Henge. 7 generic mana and 2 green. Legendary artifact, mythic rare. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Tap it, add 2 green, you gain 2 life. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. So, this is again primarily for a mono colored deck, and I'm mainly thinking of mono green Stompy Commander. This card almost didn't make it because it's a little weak. It's not, the first pick of a commander card, let's say. But it is comparable to a couple different commander cards. Soul Ring, for once. It's literally a Soul Ring in green because it adds 2 green mana, adds basically 2 generic mana if you're playing mono green, and gains you 2 life. So it's a Soul Ring +1. You know what I mean? Also draws you cards. So yeah, definitely comparable to Soul Ring. It's comparable to Beast Whisperer because whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it, draw a card. So, granted, the Great Henge is a put on the battlefield. Oh, enter the battlefield. That's interesting. Enter the battlefield. So Flickering would work with the Great Henge as well, just to put that in mind. And then also put a +1/+1 counter on it. I guess I misread that. What I was going to say about the Peleka Worm here is that this is just a generic card that gets reprinted a bunch of times, but it is a 7/7, and so if it was where X is the greatest power amongst the creatures you control, the Great Henge would basically be played for free because it'd be played for 2 mana and then allow you to instantly tap for 2 mana, gain 2 life. The other thing I was going to mention about this is Omnath. Green mana doesn't empty from your... As steps and phases in, Omnath Locus of mana gets +1/+1 for each green. I think what I was going to mention here is that even if you don't have anything to do with the Great Henge, you just held it up until your turn, you can still tap it with Omnath out, and it doesn't, doesn't go, the green mana that you generated doesn't leave. And you also will gain that to life every single rotation. I think the reason I said this was primarily I would think that it would do great in an Omnath Locus of Mana commander deck. So, that's my thought on the Great Henge. Let's see what the next one is. Realm-Cloaked Giant. This is a pretty straightforward, simple reasoning here. 5 generic, 2 white mana creature giant. Mythic rare. Cast Off is its sorcery adventure. 3 generic, 2 white mana. Destroy all non-giant creatures. Not a lot of people play with giant creatures, especially even in Commander. Even in Commander, people don't normally play with giants. I've come across one deck in my 3 or so years of playing Commander with multiple different people, and I've yet to see a giant tribal, and the only time I even saw it was he was playing a Boros deck that had a number of giants in it, not even giant tribal. So, it's a viable board clear for creatures. The last board clear they had in Standard that was very similar was Cleansing Nova, because it could destroy all creatures, and basically, again, not a lot of people play with giants. It's same mana as well, 3 generic and 2 white, but it has a body, so it reminded me of Phyrexian Rebirth, which also destroys all creatures, but makes you this big-bodied creature. Now, granted, it's not 7 mana like Phyrexian Rebirth. It's 6 mana like Phyrexian Rebirth. It's 5 mana up front, 7 mana to cast the body. So it's comparable but not the same. I think it would be more comparable as a second little brother to Phyrexian Rebirth. And I definitely think once it rotates out of Standard, it will probably be cheaper and more viable for your Commander deck if you're going for budget. So yeah, there's that. The next card is Happily Ever After. 2 generic, 1 white, enchantment rare. Pay attention to this, because this is a lot of wording here. When Happily Ever After enters the battlefield, each player gains 5 life, and then draws a card. Each player does. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 5 colors amongst permanents you control, there are 6 or more card types among permanents you control, and or cards in your graveyard, and your life total is greater than or equal to your starting life total, you win the game. Oh my god, that is a lot. It's a 3 mana enchantment that has the potential to win the game if certain circumstances happen. Those circumstances are really hard. You're going to have 5 colors amongst permanents you control. Which we figured out, and I still need backup on this, so if you're a judge out there, please comment down in the section below, but I'd like to mention Golos. Oh, and I wish I would have actually had a picture of him up here, but Golos is an artifact creature that has 5 mana in its color identity because it's in its rule text. And so it has an ability that you tap it and pay 5, you pay 2 generic and 5 mana, 1 of each color, to do its ability. And so we were thinking that would count as a permanent that has 5 colors, and so it would meet the first requirement. If there are 5 colors amongst permanents you control, well, that's Golos. Then the next part is that there are 6 or more card types among permanents. I wish I would have had the time to write it all out, but me and my buddy looked it up. There are only 7 permanent types. Enchantment, artifact, creature, sorcery, instant, planeswalker, and I think I'm missing one. Land. That's all 7 of them. So you have to have 6 out of these 7 permanent types. And granted, they gave you some wiggle room here amongst cards you control and or cards in your graveyard. And then your life total is greater than or equal to the starting life total, you win the game. Well, that's a lot of wording. So my first thought was Felidar Sovereign, who says, basically, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life total, equal to the you win the game, which is the life total equal to the starting life total of Commander. So basically the last clause of Happily Ever After. Atrata the Silencer. I was trying to compare cards to see the alternate win cards. Granted, this is, I think, target Target opponent loses the game card, not an actual win condition. But I was trying to say what cards are harder here to win with. I reiterate that with Darksteel Reactor here. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a charge counter on Darksteel Reactor. When Darksteel Reactor has 20 or more charge counters on it, you win the game. That seems even more harder because you basically have to have Darksteel Reactor survive 20 turns. 21 if you count the one that it came out on. And I think in Happily Ever After, you're going to put this card down, probably keep it on the field, and then try to win around it. The other card I was thinking that might be harder is Maze's End, because that card just seems ridiculous. You have to get 10 or more gates with different names, and then you win the game. I think there's only like 11 or 12 gates. So that's the part that I think is ridiculous about Maze's End. Granted, it helps you tutor for it, but that just seems like a way more longabout way. But that's my thoughts on Happily Ever After, is that it's not the hardest ever alternate win condition, but it's going to take some time to invest, some fine-tuning in the deck for sure. It's going to have to be a Werberg deck too, so there's thoughts about that. Maybe some way to win around that, who knows. Mirrormade. Oh, yes. 1 generic, 2 blue mana, enchantment, rare. You may have Mirrormade enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or enchantment on the battlefield. So, this card reminded me of 2 cards, and I'll just go ahead and bring them out here. Copy enchantment and copy artifact. These cards are actually played fairly often in Commander. Copy artifact was actually part of my original mono blue deck because it was so cheap. Not the card price itself, but the card CMC was really cheap and very useful, because then I could initially I was using it to bring out 2 Soul Rings or 2 Howling Mines, or basically any of that. But the other thing you can do about this, something I think that's really cheating, Platinum Angel. You can give yourself a Platinum Angel if another opponent has it on the field, or you can make a copy of your already Platinum Angel. And that's just ridiculous. Not being able to lose the game is ridiculous, because it makes those alternate win conditions, right here, those alternate win conditions that take forever to get to, it makes that impossible, because you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game twice over, because of Mirrormade or Copy Artifact. The other one, I was looking for an enchantment that would work really good, is Zendikar Resurgent. So, this would go in like some type of Simic deck. But whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of the, to your mana pool of any type that land produced. When you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Well, you're going to be tapping 1 land for 3 mana. Not even of the same color if you need it not to be. And then every single time you cast a creature spell, you're drawing 2 cards. That's ridiculous. And so that's the power around Mirrormade, is that you don't even have to have the Zendikar Resurgent. It says you may have Mirrormade enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or enchantment on the battlefield. Your opponent could have Zendikar's Resurgent. Your opponent could have Platinum Angel. And you still get to make a copy. That's ridiculous. That's super ridiculous. I love it. And that's why this card had to be mentioned in the top 10. I think this is the last card, and it's kind of one of those cards that I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get scared in the comments for it, but I really think that this is something that will be played in Commander a lot. So, Deafening Silence, 1 white mana enchantment, uncommon. Each player can't cast more than 1 non-creature spell each turn. So, the reason I think this is going to be very commonly played is for those... We all know those mono blue players. I may or may not be one of them, that have all these counter spells in their hand, right? Well, they only get to counter 1 spell per turn now. So it allows you to be actually able to play your hand as long as you're not yourself casting non-creature spells. The other thing that it could potentially end up in, and something that a lot of Commander players try to not... How do I put it? They don't want to play against it, but they do play it sometimes, and they love playing it. If you're one of those people, there's a special place in hell for you, but it's those hate decks. So this includes cards like Eidolon of Rhetoric. Each player can't cast more than one spell each turn. Each player can't cast more than one spell each turn. Rule of Law. Curse of Exhaustion. Enchanted player can't cast more than one spell each turn. And of course, let's not forget about the number one hate card in ever, Wintry Orb. Oh my god. As long as Wintry Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than one land during their untapped step. All these cards belong in a certain place in hell, but also in a certain deck called Hate. And I hate to say it, but I think Deafening Silence is just another nail in that coffin that one player at your local game store has a deck like this. Oh man. But anyways, guys, that's the end of the video. Please let me know what y'all think in the comment sections below. Did I pick the right cards here? Do you think there's another card that belongs to be here? What do you think about the whole set of Throne of Eldraine as a whole? And lastly, how much do you hate Winter Orb? Because I'm starting to wonder if I'm the only person that does. And I'm starting to wonder if I should buy a copy to play in every single game that I play. But anyways, guys, thank y'all for watching. This has been Sneaky Narcotic, signing off.